Welcome. In this video, we will touch a very, very essential and important topic. And this is that you have always existed and that you will never die. I will actually speak about this from the ancient yoga textbook, Bhagavad Gita as it is, and on the basis of this ancient true spiritual knowledge, I'll describe to you what is the difference between the body and you, the soul. And the second, how actually to not get bewildered by the body. So I will start now. First, I will read just a little bit from the Bhagavad Gita, the text 2:12, which goes, "Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be." So what is actually this? Who spoke this verse? So this verse is spoken in the Bhagavad Gita, and the speaker is the teacher. He's the spiritual teacher, and his name is Krishna. And he's speaking to Arjuna, who is actually his cousin, but has become bewildered, completely bewildered and completely overwhelmed. And his problems are so huge that he cannot find any solution out of it. So as a teacher, Krishna starts speaking these most essential truths. And actually before that, he also told him, "You're speaking such very intelligent words, but actually it is all nonsensical. And you're lamenting for something that is not even worthy to lament it for." Why? Because Arjuna was speaking about what will happen if he will fight at the battlefield at Kurukshetra. He will have to fight against his relatives. He will have to kill them. And he didn't want to kill all the dear ones, the teachers, the mentors, the gurus, the uncles, the cousins, the nephews. He didn't want that. But his spiritual teacher told him, actually, you're already lamenting for something that has no real meaning. You don't need to lament for these things. And then he went on to give this very important instruction that actually neither you nor me nor anyone else at this battlefield will ever die. We all live forever. So for all those of you who are already familiar with this knowledge that we actually are not this physical body, but we are actually the eternal spiritual living beings who are residing within this body. So for all of you, I will go actually one step further, because so many times we may hear this. We hear, "Oh, you're not this body, you're the soul." Okay, so that is nice. So what is next? Well, what is next is that we need to come to internalize this. We need to come to some realization of how we are not this body, how we are actually spiritual being. So first, I would like to just give a very brief definitions or descriptions of the difference between the body and the soul, and then we can go from here. So what are the characteristics of the body? The characteristics of the body that we can read from Bhagavad Gita are that is constantly changing. And isn't it something we all have experience of? This body is first born, then it grows, then it stays for some time, then it starts dwindling, and actually in the meantime, it also reproduces and produces other bodies. And then at the end, it dies. So these are the main changes of the physical body. Of course, we also have a subtle body, which constitutes of mind, intelligence, and false ego. And this subtle body is changing even more often. It is changing actually from moment to moment, because there are different thoughts coming, there are different emotions arising within the mind, different desires, different urges are coming. So all these things make so much change in our life. And because we are so much identifying with the body, the gross body, and the subtle mind, we actually think that we are changing constantly, and we actually really become completely bewildered by that. You may say, no, we don't become. How did we don't become? I'll tell you one thing, just one simple example. Children, they many times have some interests, and they are learning different things when they are small, and they may be actually very enthusiastic, even like for spiritual life. If we are speaking about spiritual life, this is actually the most important now. Small children can be very enthusiastic to perform different spiritual activities. But when these same children come to the teenage years, then this big change of the body, all these hormones and all these growth pains, actually change completely also the consciousness, the mind, the desires, everything is changing within the body of this person. And what happens? Many children, now teenagers, then lose the interest that they had before. So if they were very spiritual before, then they just forget about it, and then they just start pursuing other interests. So this is one example of how they become bewildered by the change of the body. So the next example of how we become bewildered by the change of the body is later, for example, when a young man and a young woman meet and fall in love and then create their family, and the child comes. So these are all huge changes. Especially for the mother, right? For the mother, she she gives birth to a child. There is so much change in the body. And so many times we can see actually that a lady who gives birth also, it's very, very difficult then for her to keep up with her spiritual practice, even though she may be very sincere, very serious. But it's very difficult because she becomes so overwhelmed by this new role that she has as a mother, and all this love and care and all these new duties. And in this way, she becomes bewildered by the change of the body. And then another example, which I can speak of my own experience, is especially when we get into old age. And the old age comes with all its difficulties, dwindling of the body, the dwindling of the bodily strength, and all kinds of diseases, especially come forward at this stage of life. And these can overwhelm us to such an extent then that performing again our spiritual duties, our spiritual activities becomes much more difficult. And we may even get like overpowered by that and just like concentrate on, how can I get my health back? What is this medicine? What is that medicine? What is this procedure? What can I do? And in this way, also get bewildered by the change of the body. So these are the different changes of the body and how we are getting bewildered by them. But the supreme spiritual teacher in the Bhagavad Gita is actually giving us this first most important instruction. You are not this body, and don't get bewildered by its changes. And this is in the next verse, which goes, as the body, as the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So I will read here a portion of purport commentary because it is very spiritually powerful and very, very instructive for us. Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrates to another body. And since it is sure to have another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on account of death. Neither for Bhishma nor for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering, according to one's work in life. So Bhishma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So in either case, there was no cause of lamentation. So we can see here, it is explained that Arjuna was like so worried about his teachers, his grandfather Bhishma and his martial teacher, martial guru Drona, to be killed. So he was very much worried about that. But actually, here it is also described that the soul does not change. Although the body is changing, as I just described previously through all these examples, from birth to youth to, to a grown-up person, and then through old age and to death, the soul does not change. The soul remains the same. And this is who you are. You are the soul. These changes of the body does not really pertain to you. And it is also further explained that the soul is never born. The soul never dies. The soul never comes into existence, but it is always existing. The soul cannot be cut into pieces, cannot be moistened by water, cannot be burned by fire. The soul is eternal, primeval, everlasting, and this is who you are. So now the question is how to not get bewildered by the changes of the body. This is a very, very important point for every spiritual practitioner and for every spiritual seeker. So I will especially speak from the point of view of the Bhagavad Gita and the practice of bhakti yoga. If you are a practitioner of bhakti yoga and if you are getting bewildered by the changes of your body, then I have one very simple but very powerful piece of advice for you, which is handed down by our spiritual teachers. It is not my idea. I have received this instruction, this teacher, this advice from my spiritual teacher, and he has received it from his spiritual teacher, and he has received it from his spiritual teacher, and it has been handed down through the parampara, or the disciplic succession of bona fide spiritual teachers. And the origin of this instruction is coming from the source of all knowledge, from the Supreme Absolute Truth himself. So this very, very simple instruction is that you stick to your duties of a soul. So now you may question, oh, what are my duties as a soul? So your duties as a soul, the most important duty of the soul is to always connect with the Supreme Soul. Or in other words, to somehow or other try to always absorb yourself in the thoughts of the Supreme Absolute Truth, or the Supreme Being, Krishna. This is the most important instruction. And I can guarantee you, if, especially during the changes of the body, when you feel challenged, when you feel pain, when you feel disease, when your body is changing in so many ways, when instead of becoming anxious, becoming restless and running around and looking for a million of material solutions, the first thing you do is to connect yourself, connect your consciousness with the Supreme Consciousness, even more than on a regular days when everything is all right, when you don't actually experience these changes of the body. So how do we connect? We connect through the spiritual sound. This is it's not mundane sound. It is the sound which is coming from the spiritual realm. When we connect through this sound, we can connect our consciousness with the Supreme Person. And then what happens? A very simple thing happens. You can actually get the realization that if you stick to these simple basic activities of practice of bhakti yoga, like chanting your mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra especially, and also other mantras like Gayatri mantra, and hearing Shravanam and Kirtanam, hearing these powerful spiritual literature and reading this powerful spiritual literature, associating with those practitioners who are spiritually connected, who are spiritually powerful, worshiping the divine form, the deity, and especially residing in a holy place, in a sacred place. If you do these 5 things, especially when there are changes in your body and changes in your mind that make you disturbed and uneasy, then you will actually get the realization that all these things happening with your body, happening with your mind, are just temporary. They're just coming and going away. But the thing that really stays with you is this personal connection with the Supreme Person, with the Supreme Lord Krishna, with a devotional attitude. This is the supreme shelter, the supreme boat in this unstable ocean of material existence, of material difficulties that are always coming toward us as the changes of the body. So if you take this shelter, then you will start realizing more and more that you are different from your body, that you are different from your mind, that you are actually eternal being who has nothing to do in this world except for trying to connect more with the Supreme Person and trying to serve him in a loving way. So I will stop here. And if you have any questions, please write them down in the comments and I will be happy to answer them.